Okay, welcome back. And now we have finally reached the last lesson of the critical essay exam uh, section of your course. And what we're going to do, okay, in this lesson is we're going to finish off the sort of set of lessons by putting all the knowledge together, okay, by combining everything and by writing an essay together. What we're going to do, okay, is we're going to take all of the different pieces, okay, all of the different sort of pieces of the critical essay course that we've sort of covered. We're going to take all the things that we've done and then we're going to put them together, okay? So we're going to use the plan that we made. We're going to use the introduction that we've already written. And we're going to use the question that we've been working on all this time. And we're going to also use the conclusion that we put together. We're going to put all these together and we're going to add the bits that are missing. And we're going to come out with, we're going to finish up with a complete essay. Excuse me. We're going to come out with a complete essay. Okay, so just to remind you, the essay question was choose a text which deals with a powerful emotion. And the sort of focus of the text, of the question, sorry, of the essay, sorry, the focus of the essay was going to be the powerful emotion of sadness, and more specifically, the sadness that the speaker feels, and we're talking about visiting over here. The sadness that the speaker feels due to losing a loved one, yeah, the patient that is ill and that's dying in hospital. So we're focused on the sadness of the speaker. Now we remember we made an essay plan. Yeah. What I've done, okay, is I've split the plan into its different paragraphs. So here is the plan for the first paragraph, and we've already went ahead. This is the introduction that we wrote, remember? We've already went ahead and we wrote the first paragraph, which I've put here. Now what we have is the second paragraph here, which obviously we're going to write, and then the third paragraph, which we're going to write. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the final part of the conclusion once we've written paragraphs 2 and 3. Okay, so this is going to give you an idea of what a sort of an example essay will look like. So write this along with me, okay? And it's okay if you don't have the first paragraph, that's fine. Just write this along with me, and just so that you've got sort of, you can get like a sort of taste or like a understanding of, you know, how the things sort of go together. What you can alternatively do is you can start writing your own essay and just sort of follow the steps that I take as I write each of the paragraphs. You can do the same thing, but with your own essay plan, which you should have now. Okay, so we're on paragraph 2, and we begin our paragraph 2. Okay, again, we're going to follow the steps. We begin by giving the location, okay, which is the middle of the text. We're going to use our little plan here to help us, okay? So here we go. We say in the middle of the text, okay? And again, we mention the question or the sort of specific version of the question. Yeah, in the middle of the text, we see the powerful emotion. Powerful emotion of sadness, and then we mention the topic of the paragraph, which is about the nurses, as the speaker describes seeing the nurses in the hospital. Okay, so that is the location. It's the question, focus, and also the topic of the paragraph, which is all about the nurses. Now what we do is we give the context. just say what happens. The speaker describes how the nurses seem to look frail. Frail just means kind of weak. Too frail to be able to handle the suffering that is around them. Okay, and he also describes, and again, when you're doing this, remember all you're doing is just setting up the quotes by just explaining what's happening at this point. As he also describes, the death, I'm gonna write the death that they've seen. And he also describes the large amount of death that day. Excuse me, the large amount. Yep, just make sure that we're still good. Yep. Okay. Large amount of death that they have seen. Okay, there's my context. Now the next bit is to introduce, to give the quote. Okay, so we say the writer says, and I'm going to put the quote, carrying their burden of so much pain. Carrying their burden of so much pain. Okay, and then I look at what was the technique. Okay, sentence structure. And okay, I believe this was a comma. Yep, it was a comma. Okay. Using, and again, this is a little sort of phrase that you can, using sentence structure. We can say using a comma or using sentence structure. We'll just say using a comma in his description, which sets us up now to do the sentence structure, steps. Okay, the comma, now we just say what it does. Remember, go back to the sentence structure video if you're not sure of the steps. You just go watch that video, watch that lesson, and you'll see the steps again. The comma makes the reader pause on the word pain, emphasizing it. So remember, comma makes the reader pause, which emphasizes whatever it gets paused on. That emphasizes whatever the reader pauses on. Excuse me. So emphasizing it. Okay, and now this suggests, and all you do is just explain the quote. I think I phrased it differently in the sentence structure video. I can't remember exactly the wording that I used instead of this suggests. Maybe this shows or something else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not really too important. Anyway, just this suggests, I'm just going to explain now what the quote is. The nurses, and then we're just explaining carrying their burden of so much pain. This suggests the nurses bear a heavy, and it's emotional and psychological, bear a emotional and psychological weight, which is sort of what he's getting at when he's talking about their burden of so much pain. It means they're carrying a lot, yeah, they're carrying a lot of emotional tragedy and all that kind of stuff. This suggests the nurses bear a heavy emotional and psychological weight due to being surrounded by tragedy. Okay, surrounded by tragedy. Yes, tragedy. Okay, and now we have got our basic analysis. Now we connect back to the question. This shows the text. Features the powerful emotion of sadness. Sadness, as the nurses have tragic lives, and this leads to the speaker contemplating. And again, if I'm using some fancy words, just Just remember, it's not about the words, okay? It's not about the words. It's first about the structure, yeah? It's not about the specific words. The fancy words and everything you can put in later. But the most important thing is the structure. Yeah, the structure. That's the most important thing. So master the structure and then use fancy words later on. Don't do the reverse. Okay, don't do the reverse. So this leads to the speaker contemplating. It's another way of saying thinking about. So a powerful emotion of sadness as the nurses have tragic lives, and this leads to the speaker contemplating the emotional and psychological trauma that his loved one is experiencing. His loved one is also experiencing. Okay, so creates powerful emotional sadness in the nurses that have tragic lives, and this leads to the speaker contemplating the emotional and psychological trauma that his loved one is also experiencing. Boom, just like that. So, again, it seems a bit complicated, but it's very simple. Location, connect to the question, main topic of the paragraph, context, quote, analysis, yeah, basic analysis, connect to the question. That's all I've done. Okay, that's all I've done. And now we go ahead and do the second quote. Yeah. And you notice also that I could have gone further, yeah, into detail. So if your paragraphs are not as long as the ones I've written, that's okay. Just first master the structure, and then eventually once you've got it, you'll be able to go into more detail and more sort of depth. If you're finding it very difficult to go into detail, one thing that you can do is instead of just focusing on one word per quote, you can focus on 2 words, okay? Or you could focus on a word plus a technique like sentence structure. You could do that. So you do 2 per quote instead of just 1. So I focused on the comma here, sentence structure. I could also now, if I wanted to write more, I could say the writer also uses word choice, and then I could write about the word burden or pain or carrying. You get the point, yeah? So you can do multiple techniques with each quote. If you need more sort of words, if you need more depth, if you find it hard to write, just focus on more than one technique and just stack them. That's like a little tip for you. Okay, so the writer also says, now go to my second quote. So many farewells. Okay, so many farewells, and this is a full stop. Excuse me. So the writer uses a full stop. And again, it's just literally like what I did before. The full stop emphasizes the certainty. Remember, full stops emphasize certainty. Again, watch the sentence structure video if you've forgotten how to do this. So the full stop emphasizes the certainty of the goodbyes. Okay, I'm making it simple just here. Then I'm gonna explain it now. The certainty of the goodbyes. This suggests, okay, this suggests that now I'm explaining the quote. The nurses have had to watch many people pass away and have had to say goodbye to many patients who will never return to life. Okay, and now again, I'll explain the quote, connect to the question. It's the final sort of connection back. Okay, this shows the text features the powerful emotion of sadness as the nurses have had to witness many deaths, many final meetings between family members, and moreover, the speaker realizes that this too will likely be the final meeting between him and his loved one. So again, all I did is I just connected the quote. So I explained the quote very simply. Then I connected the quote to the question. Then I just connected sort of the overall, what I just said, I just connected it to the overall question, just sort of again, sort of restating kind of what I said and adding a little bit to it. Excuse me. And you can see again how sort of simple it is. Okay, how sort of simple it is. And the result is 230 something forwards. Yeah. Okay, now very quickly, we'll go on to the last main body paragraph. Okay, and again, we're going to do it in the same way. All right. So we begin with the location. So we say at the end is my location of the text. Is my location. At the end of the text, and again we connect to the question. We see the powerful. This is the question, quote in question, of sadness and now we give the main topic of the paragraph which is in my plan just there. You see at the top, in the meeting between the speaker and the patient. Okay, then I give the context. The speaker describes context. Remember, just explaining what's happening. Describes his final meeting with the dying patient, his loved one, and describes their state. Describes their, I'm going to say sickly, sickly state. And I can have a look at the quotes if I want something to help me to remember sort of what it is I'm going to talk about. Describe their sickly state, that would be like the withered hand part. And describes how the patient does not have many people to see them as they pass away. That would be my sort of hint at the books that will not be redline. Again, when you're doing the context, you're just thinking about how you're going to set up the quotes that are coming. So there's my context. Now I go ahead and put the quotes. The writer says, and I have a withered hand. The writer says, a withered hand. Okay. The writer says, a withered hand. And the technique here was word choice. Word choice. The writer uses word choice. Okay, the word, and I picked withered. And you see, the plan makes it so easy. You see that, yeah? I'm just using the plan to write. The word withered, okay, relates to basic word choice, old. I'm just literally going to use the phrases that I've got here. Old, dying, and thin. And then finally, this suggests the patient is in terrible condition and is slowly dying and becoming extremely thin. Okay, I could have flipped the way I said that, but It's okay. Again, we're not too worried about sort of making it perfect for now. It's not too important. Okay, and now all I do is I just connect it back to the question. This shows the text features the powerful emotion of sadness as the speaker describes watching their loved one slowly become more and more unwell, and describes how they slowly realize that their loved one is sure to die. Okay, very simple explanation. Very simple explanation. Here we go. Okay, and I'll just make this slightly smaller. Okay, now we go ahead and we go to the second quote. The writer also says, okay, books that will not be read. Books that will not be read. Okay. And the technique here was metaphor. Okay. So the writer uses a metaphor. And again, if you're not sure about how to do this, just go back to the imagery lesson and watch it again. Okay, the writer uses a metaphor. The word book refers to a collection of knowledge, information, or stories. Okay. Knowledge, information, or stories. This suggests that the patient's life, uh, and life story will not be I don't want to use the word read, will not be looked into or investigated or even cared about after she passes away, in the same way that her books and other possessions will not be looked at or cared for. Okay. Excuse me. Will not be looked at or cared for. Okay. And now we connect it to the question. This shows the text features the powerful emotion of sadness. And look how quickly we're writing this essay yet. It's probably been 10 minutes. I'm guessing, yeah, it's been 10 minutes. We're almost finished the second paragraph, 10 minutes. If you combine the time it took to do the other one and the intro, in total, maybe all of this took us roughly 20, maybe maximum 25 minutes, which is more than enough time. Yeah, it means we would have had 20 minutes to spare in terms of your exam. The critical reading exam, which is the one where you do the critical essay and Scottish text at the same time. The critical reading exam, you have 1.5 hours. Okay, so it's 45 minutes per paper, which means you want to aim to be able to write an essay in roughly 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that, yeah? So you've got a little bit of cushion if you need it. Okay, so this shows the text, excuse me, this shows the text features the powerful emotion of sadness because, and now you just explain, because the speaker realizes that his loved one will not be cared about after she passes away, and we can just put in little brackets by people other than himself, and that excuse me, and that our possessions will not be looked after excuse me, and that our possessions will not be looked after. Let me just say also, we see sadness in the fact that speaker realizes this is his final moments with her, and that this is his final moments with her, and that just like the other patients, when she passes away, he will not be able to bring her back. Okay, and that is the connection to the question. Now, if you wanted to be really clever here, and you wanted to make things complicated, what you could do, okay, is you could go on here, and I don't recommend you do this until you've got the structure. Again, I keep saying it to you, but it's very important because fundamentals are everything. It's like in martial arts, if you don't know how to stand, if you don't know how to hold your hands in terms of guarding, you don't know how to stand, you don't know how to step forward or step back, how can you learn how to throw, a side kick or how to throw an elbow? But you don't know how to stand, you're going to fall over you. So before you try and throw elbows and try and do the complicated things, you need to learn how to stand. So this is how you stand, yeah? The structure is how you stand. So once you learn that, now what you could do if you wanted to be very clever, I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to confuse you, but what you could do is you could go into the fact that due to him knowing this, he writes the poem in order to keep her memory alive. So at the very least, even after she passes away, at the very least, the end of her life will be talked about, even if her life itself won't be talked about. So even if we don't know her name, we don't know her information. So the book's quote is still true in that we don't know her name, we don't know her information, we don't know her life story. At the very least, where she was at the end in terms of the time she spent with the speaker, that's going to be spoken about as long as people read the poem. So you could go into that, but we don't have to. Okay, we don't have to. We'll just keep things simple for now. And we'll stop the paragraph there. Okay, and again, that will give us another 280. So 280 plus the 240 from before. We're roughly sitting 250 is 500. So we're sitting on roughly 500 plus words. And then in terms of the other paragraph, well, we'll count it up properly in a minute, but surely we're hitting something like 800, 900 words right now. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to finish off our conclusion by adding the main points that we've just added for our main body paragraphs. So we remember when you're in your conclusion, you just add the points that you mentioned in your main body paragraphs. So for paragraph 2, we just go to the analysis and we look for when we connected it to the question. Okay, this shows the text which is nurses have tragic lives, contemplating psychological trauma. Okay, so we're going to mention that. We say it did this by, okay, so we just say it also did this by describing how the nurses experience large amounts of, and again, all I'm doing is just restating what I said before. Remember, your conclusion does not have any new information in it. It should not have any new information. Yeah, it's not where the new information should go before it, not in the conclusion. Conclusion is a wrap-up, a summary, referring back to what you've said before. Large amount of psychological trauma during their work due to being around a lot of death and sickness. And then I'm just going to also mention, I'm not going to mention the other parts, I'm just trying to summarize, remember? So now we go to the other point that I made. Okay, shows text sadness. They've had to witness many deaths, many final meetings between family members. Speaker realizes it's going to be the final meeting. Okay, and how the nurses have had to witness many final meetings between family members and have had to say many final goodbyes to patients that they have cared for. And then that is paragraph 2 summarized. Then we do paragraph 3. Where is the shows? So the main thing I look for is just the shows part. Okay, here we go. The shows. Here we go. More and well. Okay, so it's the state of the patient. Finally, the emotion of sadness was seen in how the speaker describes the patient's worsening condition and how their body is becoming thin and how they are slowly dying. This is the comment on withering, how they're slowly dying. Okay. And how the speaker, and this is my final comment, which is about the books not read, speaker, how the speaker realizes that once the patient has passed away, they will no longer, people will no longer, okay, people will no longer care about their life or their life story. And this is my final little comment. And he realizes that once, here we go, once the patient, we'll just say his loved one, okay, once his loved one has passed away, there will be nothing he can do to bring them back. Boom. Danzo. That is the conclusion. Look at that. And again, all I did is I just took the steps and I repeated them multiple times. So now let's go ahead and have a look at the sort of final word count. Okay, these right here, what we'll do is we'll just minus maybe 20 or 30 words, okay? Because that's how long those little planning things are. So minus 60. Okay, so minus 60. So take a guess, how many words do you think this is? I reckon it's between 900 or 800 to 1,000. I reckon 950, something like that. Wow, okay. 1,163. Minus 60, 1,100. 1,100 words. 1,100 words, and we barely tried yet. We just basically followed the steps. We did the steps one step at a time. We took it very sort of simply. We didn't use much fancy language. Just one step at a time. Yeah, taking one step at a time and using the basic RUAE skills, and we created a 1,100 word essay. You can do the exact same thing. You should now be doing the exact same thing. And again, if you find it hard to write a lot, just increase the techniques that you comment on in each quote. Remember, master the structure. Learn how to stand before you try and, do the complicated fighting techniques. Learn how to stand first, and everything is going to be great. Well done. Congratulations for making it to the end of this set of lessons. Very well done. And Now use the practice questions, write as many practice essays as you can. Remember, master the structure and everything else will follow, everything else will flow. The last section of the course is going to cover your portfolio essay. But yeah, well done for making it this far. Very well done.